John can do a good lady voice.
Thanks, buddy.
You got nothing.
I was
Didn't
hoping
even
for
try
something.
it.
Welcome to the Status Quo. I'm your host, Chance. Today I'm joined by our lead game developer and lead game breaker, Johnny Boy. And I'm also joined today by our lead scribbler, Bear.
That's me.
All right, so let's get to it today. We won't be talking about Diablo 4, so this will be, third episode in, and we're not going to talk about Diablo. We actually today want to talk a little bit more about... What was that? Talking smack already?
Yeah.
Today we actually want to talk a little bit more about our writer. There's a lot going on in his life, a lot going on in the world of writing, in the world of Litera, so we wanted to get a little bit of breakdown from him. So go ahead and just tell us what your role is within Sundered Gaming.
To make a cohesive, awesome story. That is the whole point of this.
Simple, sweet, and to the point. So why do you want to make it cohesive? I know that's a stupid question. There's a reason behind the question, though. We look at a lot of the games that we play or used to play, and we look at their stories. So why to you is it important that it's cohesive and it makes sense and that it all really comes together?
I would say because of a lot of the other lore out there, World of Warcraft, I'll just name drop that one, just leave it at that. But I don't want to be having to retcon stuff because we think of a greater idea over here. So I want it to all flow succinct together and be like, holy crap, this isn't going to have to be retconned. It flows into the stuff in the future because it's all already connected. That's why I built everything in the past to reflect the time period we're starting in. And then I've already been building the future based off of everything. So it's not like we're going to start here and just wing it. I want it to be where you, almost like a blueprint that you guys can follow as you're making the games, that you're like, oh yeah, we're here. And this is why this works. And this is why this works. And like, it all just fits because as crazy and miraculous as like the magical world can be, it still needs to function in a way that we can relate and understand. And I feel like when you just throw things in and go, oh, because, or it takes away from like the authenticity of what you're trying to do in the story. At least that's for my perspective.
Gotcha. So how much interaction do you have with the development team in regards to making everything cohesive and making it all make sense?
Well, I would say anytime they have a design issue or question when it comes to like art or like, hey, how should this function for coding? Like, how would that actually look in the game? You guys send me emails or call me on the phone and talk to me about it, and I help try to give you a better picture. Because one of the things I want to make sure is that, yeah, you have the template for the world, but it also needs to be a place where you guys can stretch out of with your creative parts and put your touch into it. And that's what I want for fans to be able to do. Like, I want them to be able to think of their own character in this world. Like, who would they be? Like, what would they be doing? And then they can build off of that, like you would in a D&D session. So having you guys creating the world and like building it off of the template that I've laid out will hopefully help other people down the road do the same thing. Just imagining themselves while they're playing it. Like, I'm in this world. I'm a part of this story. Like, hey, I may not be the big name here, but I'm here. I'm in it. Gotcha. But you guys are always connecting with me like, hey, is this supposed to look like this? And I'll be like, no, this isn't Egypt. This is...
At least you're not telling me it looks like the Epcot Center, all right?
I was just about to say that.
I know you were, John. But yeah. So how much influence does the team overall have on your writing and what your lore looks like?
Not to hurt anybody's feelings, I would say 60-40. Just because
60-40 what?
60-40 me, the other 40% would be your guys'
Oh,
input,
okay.
feedback.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like maybe this doesn't work the right way or whatever. Because um, at least initially, that's how it went. Like making sure that things were like running my ideas by you guys, and be like, how does this sound? Does this would this work? And then putting it to pen or typing it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it does work. And so, uh, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Just I started thinking about something totally different. I was like, oh wait,
60-40? Does that bring you back?
yeah, I would say 60-40. Now it's less because I have that initial stuff established. And now and I'm like, okay,
So you need
I
less
don't
and
need
less
you
of
guys.
input. Oh, okay. We're no longer
but
needed.
but that's not true either too, because I do need you, which is why you guys are reading. You read this stuff and give me feedback, which is fantastic. But I would say a lot of it's a team thing, and it goes back to like part of the reason why I started doing this story in the book. I'm sure that's probably one of your questions, but like the community is what drew me in, and I'm going to continue to utilize that. So like you guys are my community in your Shad, and like with John, who was the one that initially asked me about creating a world and how would magic work and all that, and like it almost like lifted a veil from my head, like, oh wow, someone knows that I like this stuff, knows that I have the potential to write pretty fun little stories because I've done it for us when we're playing games, have a little story for our guys afterwards or something, and like it made me realize that, oh wow, someone actually thinks that I'm good at this. Maybe I should really pursue this and actually try. So then I started writing the book. But yeah, as time goes on, I feel like I. I'm just kidding.
That's what I got out of it. We're being phased out.
What you're telling me is we were helpful in the beginning, and now you just don't need us anymore.
By the time book 3 comes, like no input from us whatsoever.
Yeah, you're just.
I'm like, no, that's not how it goes.
You're not even going to email me chapters anymore. You're just going to be like, yeah, you'll get it when you get it.
Yeah. So you're gonna pay like the rest of like everybody else.
You don't get to know. No, I think I've done a pretty good job. I've only hidden a few things from you guys that you guys don't know about, like at all, that I have never even brought up. And I think part of that will be more exciting for you guys down the road rather than telling you now. Because as much as I want to tell you guys everything, I also I want you guys to be surprised too and just be like, crap. I did not see this at all. And like from any of the conversations or anything. So I have to be careful because I want to tell you guys the story of characters that I've based off of you, but I also don't want you to know everything because I want you to be surprised as well. Yeah.
I would say that that sums it up pretty good, and that definitely answers my next question, which was what kind of prompted the writing.
Yeah. It was definitely John, because I didn't realize this because I was in a bad place in my life in general, but didn't think I didn't think I was capable of doing anything other than the mundane and just surviving and living, and like to think about someone caring about stuff that I've written or he's read before, like even if it's just like little paragraphs, and hearing like someone being like, "Hey, I think you could do this. What do you think?" It was kind of like, huh, someone believes in me. I can do it. And in my world, I'm like, I'm a genius. I'm writing a great story. And then I like read the first few sentences, and I'm like, no. He fell. You want to describe anything else? He just fell.
So, the inspiration behind Latera, the world in general, what was that? What made you want to create that universe?
Well, I guess the first thing I would have been thinking about all of our own mythology in the world as humans, and how much there is in it. And I was like, okay, what would a world look like that was, if this was all real? Like if Mount Olympus really did have all those gods, and like the chaos that it would bring. Like if these gods were ruling over, this pantheon was ruling over humanity, like doing all these things. I'm like, okay, so now taking like your favorite stuff, which is the fantasy world with like Tolkien and all that, like D&D world, Faerun. Um, okay, so take it and make it in that setting. So how would the gods be created? How did this happen? Build the history. That's how it all started in my head. And then I'm like, well, then later on, after generations of time, like, is this gonna stand? Like, is humanity, the elves, all these people are gonna keep living under this like this boot? Would we, as humans in a world living with Zeus and all that and above us, like controlling and making our lives cruel or more difficult just on a whim, would we stand up to that? Like, how would that look? So then that's when I like started formulating more of the story.
Formulating more of the history and the lore and the
Right.
backstory to everything.
Yeah.
So one question I do have for you is because not only do you started to create the world of Latera, you also went into space and created a whole solar system around where Latera actually
Yeah.
revolves around like two suns.
It's the Pantheon galaxy.
Right.
Right.
So what was your ideas on that as far as like having to use two suns and all this?
Um,
At least from your map, it was just pretty expensive.
I would say the inspiration just came from like this. I have a blank canvas, and I'm gonna make as much of the history and the sciences and much of this stuff as real as possible. How am I gonna do that, knowing that it's a made up place? And like, I can't speak to where all of that comes from, but I give a lot of credit to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, because I ask him every time I'm writing or every time I'm trying to go into like this zone. I have this like little meditation session, if you will, and just kind of like, uh, help me with this. This is something I'm passionate about. What I'm trying to do with this. Help me to achieve that. Help me to get in the zone, if you will. And then, obviously I listen to all kinds of classical music and epic music and all this stuff to kind of like set the mood depending on what I'm doing. But like as far as like the solar system, if you think about our own, like it and how little we know of space and what's out there, like it's like, wow, there could be anything. Like maybe my make believe world could be another galaxy. Not but the point it like
You're already saying that you're receiving radio transmissions from
no,
another
John,
galaxy
I
in
am
your
not
dreams.
saying that. Not trying to start a cult here.
And on that point too, I do feel like it's easier to start with the macro and then go into those smaller details of like
Right.
actual stories within the world itself. Because you created that essentially the universe that you started with, planets, suns, all that, and then you went down into the world, and then you started creating the history of the world itself.
Mm-hmm.
So going from that macro down to that micro, I mean, say inspiration, our Lord and Savior. You look at Genesis. That's how it starts. It starts with the macro, and then it breaks all the way down to the micro. So it's easily to see that influence that's in there.
Right. And for me, that is it's paramount. Like that's part of my process. And like, not that I'm trying to preach to people. Inevitably, that happens whether you're trying to or not. But the ideals that I'm trying to show in these stories and it is something that everyone can relate to. And like, I'm sure not everyone will like the stories in general, because they are very dark with the light too. But like, we'll see.
There's definitely a hard line you toe with the balance of good and evil and showing the true depravity of what that evil looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into that, just give us a brief synopsis of Latera in the world, in the universe itself. I mean, if you want to start with You don't necessarily need the names of the universe because people really aren't going to know that. But the gods, I would say that would probably be the starting point for
Starting with the gods.
Yeah, for the readers, the listeners, and anybody who's going to come through and really play our games, the information that would be good for them to know about the world that they're actually in and playing.
Well, it's in a nutshell, the Latera, the planet that we're on, is controlled by three main gods. Under those three gods, they have um, primarchs, demigods, these templates of the other races. Each one having their own, and they are in charge of everything. So you have Asmalor, who's kind of like the self-righteous, holy. I'm better than everybody else just because I am. Like, and then you have Uruk, his brother, who is much. He's above. He sees his brother for what he is. He doesn't see holiness or like this great bright light. He sees a younger brother who needs to be taught a lesson. So he is completely opposed to all of his brothers' workings on the planet. Like they're fighting each other to show which one's plans are more worthy of being the leader of everything, like being the one god. And Malachus, the sister of the two brothers, is kind of stuck in between both of them. She doesn't want either one of them to win, so she's trying to keep a balance between them, helping both sides whilst trying to still remain neutral, which is rather difficult. Both brothers created the Asmalor, the brother of light. He creates the high elves, the firstborn, and then Uruk creates the dark elves, his firstborn. And they, through that society, have a caste system with the other races. The high elves and the dark elves in their respective camps are the highest. Everyone else serves. So that's to whatever capacity the elves want it to be and whatever Asmalor or Uruk demands. So, yeah, it's pretty much if you're a human or one of the lesser races, it's not an easy life, like at all. You're in your actual life doesn't really matter. They don't care. They're literally using them as pawns to prove a point to each other while the world suffers.
So what you're saying is that they're living under a pantheon of tyranny.
They are living under a pantheon of tyranny. That's the name of the series. Pantheon of Tyranny.
So we are going to get into that later, but yes, the Pantheon of Tyranny series, which every day I feel like I talk to you about it, and the amount of books in the series just seem to get larger and larger. So that's like I'm looking forward to book number 2. But on the realm of the history and the world itself, we've briefly discussed this before, and I know we talked about it a little bit on the Bush League Gaming podcast, which, by the way, go check them out. Great guys, great to listen to. They talk a lot about gaming, talk a lot about games in general. It's
the couch could use a little work.
Yeah, the couch.
we broke the couch.
Yeah, we broke the couch. Go check them out. It's average opinions from average gamers, I believe, is what they say. But don't quote me on that. And Ryan, don't be mad at me if I misquoted you. But a little more towards how your world works. We briefly discussed magic and the creation of the world. So, in the universe, there's one great being, right? So, what was the creation of the world? What did that look like? And I know I'm asking a question that maybe not you want to discuss, but whatever you're willing to give on that topic.
The world was created technically by what's called volumes. The volumes are they're sentient beings that serve the creator. We don't know the creator, but the creator has them and uses them throughout this galaxy all over, and they build, and like they form mountain, like they're instrumental in creating and forming these things. No one knows about them. Not even like the reader, like as I'm telling you now, will know about it because I'm telling them. But it's not even in at least the first book. It's not in there. It doesn't talk about it. But they are a very important aspect to everything, and um, you'll learn more about them later. Like I'm not gonna talk too much about it because that'll dig me into a hole I don't want to try to climb out of.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Retcon. I'm just
So on that kind of branch there, how old is the world? How old's the history within Latera itself?
Okay, so
Why didn't take a breath for that one?
Yeah, he did.
from our human understanding, for as the reader, as the players, whatever, our understanding is that as the time of the first book, I think it is, well, it's 30 years after the year 20,444.
20,444. Remember that.
That's from the humans' understanding of how the time works. I'll expound on that later when we get to the other stuff, but I'm not going into more of it. But that's where we understand the time to be right now.
Gotcha. So how much, just out of my curiosity, how much of that history do you have written? Or at least have a comprehension of what that looks like?
I have from the beginning to up until the first book, like laid out the events that have to be like the smaller ones that affect the big events to like a whole timeline of things that
But just one time.
just one timeline. Multiverse.
We're throwing that out right now. One timeline. That's it. If we ever break that, come back to this episode and be like, hey, you said you weren't doing this.
He doesn't know. Don't listen to him. But yeah, like there's things that I have more, or I have in more detail than others, but yeah, it's all laid out, and I'm pretty excited. Matter of fact, it's not just the past; the future's laid out too.
So you're telling me we go past the year 2040, 44?
Well, it doesn't end.
Oh, bookshop, boom.
You could-
2044.
Spoiler alert! Thank you.
I believe technically is the year Aristin is born. So the first book takes place when like 15, 16 years after that.
Gotcha. Well, it's an easy segue into my next question. Tell us a little bit about Battle of Lindly, the first book of the Pantheon of Tyranny series.
The city centers around a town named Lindly, and I feel like this keeps going up. It's like, so the first book takes place in the city of Lindley, and the commander of the city guard, the legionnaires, and all that there is Victus, and he has an adopted son. And every year they make a trip to Delwan, where Victus had rescued that baby years ago after it had been sacked. Like he was the only survivor from that city, and it's a tale of a father and son going on their yearly pilgrimage to honor the dead and visit old friends, because a lot of other people come to it as well. And one of the big things is Victus knows that a lot of bad things have been under everyone's nose, have been happening in the city. And so he's like, well, I'm going to send out word to let the capital know what's going on, and then I'll be back and we'll handle everything here. But things go awry almost immediately, and things change. So it's basically about how are they going to save a city that's being corrupted from within.
By the power of friendship.
By the power of friendship.
The dwarves, they gotta help. But So, I mean, that's the overarching story of that first book. But what are some of the underlying themes that you feel the readers are going to connect with a lot, and that they're really going to pull from the book?
I would say family, duty, and that kind of stuff. Like you see a lot of the importance of making tough decisions, knowing that it's the right decision to make, and knowing that the consequences are going to probably be your own life, but choosing that anyway. I think that's a huge undercurrent of what's going on. Like, hey, this what we're doing is we're going to do the right thing, knowing that this could lead to our death. Like, even if the odds are against us, even if like we're going to stand up for our family, we're going to stand up for our duty to our community, we're going to stand against the tyranny. Like, and I think that's a huge element, but there's other things in it as well, because you have the well, honestly, if you think about it, the Pantheon of Tyranny is really end up being just a very long love story, a very dark and very violent love story, but nevertheless. So you have a lot of things that are conveyed in it. But I think loyalty, friendship, community, knowing that you're not alone, like even when things are like compounding and compounding and you're feeling so much pressure, it's like, oh no. And it's like, no, you still have, we're here together. We're united in this together. We're not giving up. We're not going to surrender. And then like I think that I don't know. I think that that's one of the things. But honestly, I'm curious to see what other people see, because when I'm writing, I think about like I want to tell a great story. I want it to move people. I want them to be a part of my world. But I also am curious what other people get out of it. Or like, that's why I love having you guys give me feedback. That's like my favorite thing, is hearing like, oh, how much you liked it or how much you didn't like this part or whatever, and the reasons why. Like, because there's obviously things that people are not gonna like in the book. Like, I'm the first chapter, like people are gonna be like, ooh, ouchie.
Yeah, the first time I read that first chapter, I was like, "Did he send me the right thing? Like, I need to reread this."
This is the beginning. Is that
Yeah.
really?
But I think I do an okay job of balancing the darkness with the light. So it's like you're getting hit with, ooh, that's heavy. That's evil, and then you're like, oh, rebound. We got good guys here too. We're not. It's not just darkness.
A deluge of darkness.
Right? Because you have to show all of it. You have to show the reality of the world, but you also have to show that there's people in this world that will not surrender to that darkness. So we'll see. Definitely curious. People will be like, worst book ever made.
It's like, I saw their podcast. I did not get no love story out of this bullshit.
I'm like trying to think back through the book, and I'm like, okay, I mean, yes, and I know what some of the future looks like too. So I'm like, okay, yes, but at the same time, I guess that's not what I necessarily would have seen as the overarching story. But I mean, coming from the author, it's got to be somewhere.
Well, I always am gonna. Well, people will see that anyway. But I want to have everything from anger, love, to hate. I want the people when they're reading it to have all of these emotions, and like because
I think you were able to do that in just one chapter.
I put so much of my own emotion into it. That's part of what I'm writing, and I hope people feel that, like, and I think they will.
Well, I know when we were on the Bush League Gaming podcast, I talked a lot about the emotions that I went through while I was reading your book, and the fact that to me it was a roller coaster, and that I don't read fantasy very often. It's just not the genre I really read anymore.
Yeah.
But going through and being able to read the stories that I, in a way, helped influence, but then to get to see them actually written out and fully fleshed out and see the true feeling behind it, I can only imagine what the reader is going to feel, not really knowing what that story is going to be before they read it. because I knew to a point a lot of what was going to happen because we talked about it.
Right.
But to actually see it written down just drove a lot of emotions within me personally. So on that whole emotions kind of topic, when you're writing, what do you do? What's your vibe? Do you put on like rain clouds, turn the lights off, and like sing yourself a melody while you type, or
I actually typically write in darkness with just light, like a one light, or I've even done a candle as my light from the computer, depending on the situation. But I prefer to have kind of like no distractions in music. And so I have my playlist of, I call it epic writing music, to really get me in that vibe.
yeah, are you gonna share that epic music playlist with your
With my
readers?
fans.
Yeah, with your massive fan base.
Yeah, I think our tech guy is going to put it on the website or something so people can get to it or look at it. And
Yeah, he'll probably get to it eventually.
but
in about a month.
Give me about a month.
about a month.
I'll follow up with him. Don't you worry.
Yeah, so but then there's also other times where I will, like for instance, here at the office, I'll go on the balcony and I'll just sit there and just watch the sky next to the airport and just drift off in my own little world, thinking about scenes, go back, turn the lights off, put the music on, and start writing. And sometimes I'll get like a whole paragraph in and be like, I'm not starting like this. I'm going to change it all up. So I'll either put that paragraph down somewhere else and then start again until I find out how I want the flow to go. And then I'm like, boom, 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 and then continue. Just depends.
Gotcha. I had a follow up question to that, but I was so just entranced by your story that I couldn't.
And John going.
Do you need a nap there, Johnny boy? Has it been a day already? I know it's been a day for me. So the book. What does the timeline look on the book if you're comfortable talking about that right now?
Tomorrow.
He just said
well,
like 20,444.
28. Today's the 28th.
Yes.
So 28th, today's 28th. So 29th, 30th. 30th, I'll have the edits done. And from then on, we're going to start doing all the getting ready for publication. We just finished the official cover because the cover on the website is just a placeholder, a temporary but now we have one that we're going to use. And
did you guys finish it?
Yeah, you have it.
No. Do I have it or do I have the one that I have to edit?
You have the one that you have to edit.
Okay, I was like, I don't remember finishing it.
I'm like,
but I mean, the point being is like that all these little things that doesn't really matter until the book's actually edited, right? Or like ready to go to print.
Mm-hmm.
But we have all that, so I'm really excited about Friday. It's being like, here it is.
Yeah.
And people are gonna read it and be like, oh, error. And like,
I'm actually excited for the advanced reader copies because
right.
I
am too.
I'm gonna take a day off of work and just read it all day.
I think that'll be really cool.
Give a copy to Jennifer and be like, all right, read this and break it down.
Yeah.
At least she's more of an outside perspective. Right. I mean, she kind of likes you. You're not too bad. She really likes Danielle, but
right.
But yeah.
Danielle will help a lot too.
Oh, for sure.
The advanced reader, I can't wait to see see it and
to have that hard copy.
And be like, holy moly, it's right here. Like it has been tough though, because I get myself in a little bit of trouble because I'll read stuff and I'm like, I could make that better. And then I go, delete. Sorry. I just delete it. And I'm like, uh-oh. It's like, and so then I'm like adding and I'm like, did I forget anything? Crud. But it's been tedious, but I still enjoy it. Because I'm reading it all over and I'm like, oh yeah. I forgot about that part. I was like, woo!
That's what I'm excited about because I finished reading it
You read
Like-
the
like-
first rough draft.
Yeah, like 9 months ago. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's been a while. So
So I've edited a lot.
yeah, so I'm really excited because the word count jumped up. I want to say like almost 15,000.
It's still going up.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's jumped up a lot since the last time I read it.
It's probably gonna go up too because I noticed as the last chapters, because I'm on the last like 5, I think 5 or 4, and there's so much going on, and there's so much that I need to expound on a little bit or touch up. So I've been like adding and being like, all right.
You're like, okay, well maybe we're gonna add another chapter here.
I know. I'm like, if I just keep it at 29, it doesn't seem like a big book, right?
Chapter
I don't think there's anything wrong with a big book.
26A.
I think people will
26B.
appreciate the fact that I keep it, I want people from any demographic in the United States or English speaking, because it's not in any other languages yet, to be able to read it. So if you're not like a great reader, I still want you to be able to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know. I think it'll be fun for people. So,
I'm looking forward to the day where we all sit down and do the audiobook version of it.
that would be so much
Everybody
fun.
voices their own characters. That would be a good time. Get the gals in here to do some of the female parts.
I
Or
think it
John can do a good lady voice.
Thanks, buddy.
You got nothing.
I was
Didn't
hoping
even
for
try it. Didn't even give us a little.
We'll get Shad. He loves doing those barmaids.
The barmaids.
What can I be doing for you?
Get him like a wig. With this
It's
5 o'clock
not gonna be
shadow.
recorded.
But to get into character.
To get into character.
Oh Lord.
Like, no. Red wig, not the blonde. Who's speaking right now? Nah. I'm excited.
No, I think we're all really excited. Not only for the story that you're telling within Battle of Lindly, but the story that the series tells in and of itself, the Pantheon of Tyranny, because that directly translates to pretty much everything we're working on with our games. So moving forward, we've got Ages of Laterra, should be done in about a month. So we said on Bush League Gaming about 2 months ago too. So, and then
But it's actually a lot closer now.
Well, it's because you broke it the day we went to Bush League. Literally the day we go over to Bush League Gaming.
Okay, listen. I didn't break it. Everyone else broke it. I had to fix it. Because it wasn't my code that broke it.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, your code referenced everything at one time.
Yeah, because you guys gave me all the stuff to reference it. I didn't learn about soft referencing until after the fact.
It's okay. I'm learning how to write. You're learning how to code. He's learning art. Like,
yeah, it's a rough time here. It's a rough time here at Sundered Gaming.
well, at least for me, like looking at the second book and what I've written of it, I'm like, man, I'm getting into a stride. I'm finding my legs.
Whoa, time out. How much of the second book have you written?
Just a little.
Okay.
2 chapters.
Because I only have 2 in my email, sir. So when am I getting the rest of those chapters, buddy?
They're not ready.
What do you mean they're not ready? They're written.
They're not written. John's just talking out of his butt.
No, that's just John. So how much of that you got the stuff, buddy?
He's
Is
like,
it first
this
try
is what
free?
my stuff does. It creates addicts.
Oh. No, definitely looking forward to it. Looking forward to standing at Barnes and Noble, watching you sign books for all your five fans.
Hey, but at the very people might be inspired to write the next amazing book, like Les Mis or something. Like someone out there might just be like, "Hey, I'm just gonna do it. I have an idea for a book, and it's about a rock. Cool, do it." Like, I think that's one thing. If anything, not being afraid to try and knowing that you may fail. Like whatever, I'm having a blast doing it. I have no complaints about my life, and I'm very thankful that I'm able to at least try and do it. Like
even a story about a rock is probably better than some of the stuff that's out there now.
That's unfortunately probably true.
My pet rock.
I think one of the biggest things too is just like the feeling of accomplishment of doing it. Like,
Yeah.
you sell 5 copies, 3 of them to me, 2 of them to Bush League Gaming, and nobody else buys it. Right?
That's
I mean, you wrote a book. How many people can say that?
at the very least, my children will read it. Like
You're gonna
Remy,
force them to?
yeah, like, of course. We're like, here comes your time, son. Read Daddy's story and pass it on. But I mean, I think that's one of the things too that inspires me to write is that even when I'm gone, maybe like someday my great grandchildren will be like old enough to read and be like,
What's this book?
"Whoa!"
Yeah, no, that's
Like,
very true. And I mean, that's everything that we're doing right now in general. I mean, we put out 1, 2, 3 video games and nobody likes them. Cool, whatever.
At least we can say that we did it.
We put out video games. I got a game on my phone that
I
nobody
made.
else has
Yeah.
that I made. I'm like, it's the coolest thing in the world.
It is.
So even to accomplish what you've accomplished and then to fail, I wouldn't even consider that failure.
Right.
I mean, it's been such an adventure, so much fun the whole way through.
It's like only our little circle likes the stories and stuff. So I mean, even that is fun. Like we can use it for our D&D sessions.
Exactly.
Like
we can create our whole own world and
worst
go
case
into a bunch
scenario,
of different
it's
stuff.
just another campaign we get to play.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
I would love to play the campaign of the First War. I think that would be.
Woo!
And then
It might be a little rough.
it would be.
Depends on what race you are.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to play as the bad guys?
Yeah, if we're playing the bad guys, we're gonna be doing great.
Well, the first mission that I set up for when we actually do the campaign is set in Asmodine. So
Is it set during the time I
Yeah.
think it's set? Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That
no,
will be fun.
literally is that gonna happen within like the
I just have
moments
no
of your
clue what's
campaign.
going on.
Oh, absolutely
It's like,
not.
yes,
These guys have lost
that's
things. Like, what are
that's
they
one of
talking
those
about?
little snippets that I could do on the side for just that whole scene, what like unfolds.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Can't tell you guys. Not yet.
Well, if you guys play tabletop RPGs, what do you play? Dungeons and Dragons, 3.5, 5th edition, trash.
Second
edition, yeah.
Dragonlance.
It's actually called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Sorry.
Thank you. Pathfinder. I think that's about it.
Pathfinder is good. 3.5 Pathfinder. I don't like 4. I'm not a big fan of 5.
Come on. Wizards of the Coast didn't even like 4. They released it for like 6 months and then put 5 out.
Yeah, well, yeah. I like 3.5. That's what I grew up playing. And then Shad introduced us to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and that was a fantastic experience because everything's kind of different.
It was.
You mean it was difficult?
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
It was.
It actually made you feel like you were achieving something when
Yeah.
you like got to the next levels.
And like the THACO is a little bit of a learning curve, but your dad's a
Leave a comment below if you even know what the word THACO means.
That's true.
But no, that's
Yeah.
Shad's been a great storyteller in all the D&D sessions, and I feel like
He's good on the fly.
oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Has he been any influence to your stories at all?
Not as much because he wasn't a part of this at the beginning, and that was when I needed you guys maybe the most. I would say.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't a part of it actually at all at the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning.
So like I had a character for him in my head, but I never really talked to him about it. I mean, he always gave me the real an understanding of like you can tell great stories all the time anywhere you are because he's a great storyteller. He always can tell you like he could make the story from driving from McDonald's to the house an epic journey. Like if you're sitting in the car with him, he's like, and we're going. It's like it's just fun being around him. And so like in that the casual way he tells stories or whatever, the way his imagination works, I guess in that sense it does. But as far as I never really got to sit down and talk to him about it.
And
Well, he also worked at another Home Depot, so.
correct.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our time talking about lore and talking about history was spent the three of us behind Home Depot avoiding work. I mean, checking the concrete tags.
Right. We had to make sure all the special orders were correct.
Oh yeah.
Come on, you guys, receiving
No.
guys and
I don't
freight
miss
guys are
that.
just.
No, not at all. Every time I talk to a Home Depot employee or ex Home Depot employee, they tell me they're so much happier not being there. Not to talk smack about Home Depot, but
But I think that's just retail in general.
yeah, retail in general. I would agree with that statement for sure. But yeah, I mean, a lot of our stories, a lot of the history that we've talked about in the lore, I remember those conversations behind Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, I'm not going to say the G word.
It's okay.
I'm pretty sure John got it.
Yeah, I got it.
That whole concept was created behind Home Depot. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know
you got it. You got it.
Yeah, because it started out like something else. I'm like, no, I don't want that. It's so dumb. I don't want another to the another.
It was because it was my idea, and then John like looks over and he's like, "Well, that's kind of stupid." And then he like
John vocalized my thought, and then
Well, wasn't that hard?
It was a good idea, but I implemented it incorrectly, and then
Right.
John just fixed the implementation.
correct.
Right.
Coder, we'll take it.
Exactly. That's the community and importance of having people in your life that care about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And like that to be able to be like, no, that's a stupid idea. Don't do that. And you're like, I want to. Like you gotta have people like that. And that's what we have here. Like we sometimes we can be very, I wouldn't say like cruel, but we can be harsh with each other. But that's because we know the potential that can come out. Like, yeah, did you even try?
Yeah,
I mean,
did you
come
just
on.
give me a duck line?
Don't give me this half-written paragraph where the guy's stumbling. Give me the whole thing.
Yeah, my favorite part.
Just look at the detail of this tower. This is what he came up with after.
For any of those wondering what these are some of the towers. Not that one. That's an old version. These are some of the towers within the Ages of Laterra phone mobile defense game that we have.
It's coming out
In a month. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, a lot of this came from very constructive criticism, and then a lot of it came from very vague criticism, like, I don't like it. And then he walks away from me. What don't you like, John?
As he walks down the hall.
Just to explain, if I say, don't like it, that means all of it.
That would have been more helpful than I don't like it and walking away.
I don't like it.
There's nothing redeemable about it. Maybe the piece of wood that you had on it. I don't know.
Really? Because you really talked me up when I built you that duck blind that first time.
It was your first go.
It was your very first go at it.
You went from
You were very proud of that thing. I
fat
didn't want
pork butt
right
to a little shack.
to a little structure of like, okay, I think I can make do with something like this for a level 1,
A level
right?
one.
So it's just like, okay, this could work. But like, if I was going to know I was going to get this, hell yeah, I was going to make fun of your ass for what you gave me.
Even this one, I still like this, even though it's on the reject board. Still a good design.
No, I'm a fan of that one.
That one looks better.
I will agree to that statement for sure. I like the stonework on that one. But you're always complaining that every time I build something, the wood doesn't line up. It's because the wood doesn't line up, John. Just doesn't. You try and make a 2x4 in the year 2444.
Okay, so hold on. What he's talking about is that you can clearly see gaps and holes through the structure there, which, you know.
The carpenters aren't that great sometimes, man. You got to work with what you got. And they're building these really quick. Have you seen how fast they come down?
Yeah,
And you're pushing them on the...
That's fine, yeah. Right now they're coming back pretty quick. Instantaneous. Boom.
Yeah, they're pretty
They're not even-
instantaneous on that, honestly.
They're actually a new old age manufactured towers. So these are built off site, and the wizards just teleport them to locations.
That's actually a really good explanation. I know you were being facetious, but that's a really good explanation. Manufactured off-site and teleported in. That's freaking hilarious, honestly.
Because I mean, you got to imagine like trying to build a tower in a road where enemies are constantly coming, like how much work are you actually going to be able to get done?
That is very fair. Well, if you'd like to check out Battle of Lindly and the upcoming series, Pantheon of Tyranny, any information that we're tyranny. Did I say
Pantheon of Tears.
Yeah, it could be. I cried a little bit that first book.
So did I. Jeez.
Dang. If you'd like to check out the book a little bit more, go to our website, sunderedgaming.com. If you'd like to check out Bear and some of his promotional stuff or some of his book talk or bookstagram, you can check him out at sundered_bear. Is it Sundered Bear? I want to say it's got the ED. Okay.
Yeah, Sundered Bear.
And then on all of our projects moving forward, anything that we do will be posted on our website. Once again, sunderedgaming.com, and all of our social medias, Sundered Gaming. Sundered_gaming.
Some of the TikToks are funny.
It depends on the day. Some of them are informational. Some of them are funny. Most of them are just fantastic. But that is all the time we have for today. This has been The Status Quo. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Smooth jazz. I'm clipping that for sure.